I still don't, and I've subscribed to twice. It must be, so I'm really sure that I subscribed. Is it like?
It might be because it's Canada, so it's considered international.
I've subscribed to twice. It must be, so I'm really sure that I subscribed. Is it like?
Oh, sorry.
All right. I was like, what did I do? I didn't touch it. Oh.
Pause. All right, so I am copying the paste. I'm copying and pasting now. All right, and this will give time for people to join us. I actually don't mind this little lag at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, don't like this, all this introductory stuff. You can always skip ahead. That's a nice thing. But yeah. All right, send message. Yes, send it. Yeah, I have 98 people that are signed up, but maybe because you're Canadian. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's why. Okay, let me go back here and pull this up so I can see it.
Just another problem with Canadians.
And you know, I hear Americans all the time like talk about how they want to move there, and I'm just like,
they don't mean that.
No, and I actually know I'm like a member of some homeschool groups on Facebook, and they're always talking about moving there and things. So, like, I don't think you.
Grass is always greener.
Yes, exactly, and I think that's. All right, let me try. There we go. Okay, now we got the chat on that I can see it. All right, ladies. So let me know if the volume is good, if it's too low. I adjusted it. It hasn't even come up yet that it's. Let me make sure. There we go. Okay, it just popped up on my phone that. Oh, there's Karen. Hi, Karen and Dorothy. They're on. We are awesome. Okay, so guys, we have a fun show, nice show. I don't know if it'll be fun, but I mean, it's always, but the topic is a little heavy. So I don't know if it'll be fun in that aspect, but I actually asked for ideas in the Gently Led Sisters group today for topics. I'm going to try to have on a bunch of pastors' wives in the next few weeks and probably premiere them rather than me being live every Monday night. April's a super crazy month for us, so I think it'd work out better that way. But I was going to be by myself this week, and Talia messaged me and asked if I had ever done this subject. And I said, I can't remember really ever doing one specifically on this. And I knew that she had gone through this. So I invited her last minute, spur of the moment, to come on. And she was gracious enough to say yes. And she is actually 2 hours ahead of me. She is a Canadian sister in Christ, another Canadian friend. So she is 2 hours. So it's late her time. It's 9 o'clock her time. So I'm glad that she agreed to come on. So Talia, I know we wanted to kind of wrap up your testimony too in this. You had wanted to talk before about your testimony and just being saved a little bit later in life versus, you know, being saved young and then growing up in it. So can you just introduce yourself, and we'll just go right into your testimony and take it from there.
Okay. So I think the first time I actually attended a church, which actually was a Baptist church, I was about 4 years old. My neighbor across the street, her family, they were pretty devout Baptists, and she was just my best friend because she lived across the street. And so she had asked me, I remember it so well that she asked me to go to church with her, and I didn't really know what that meant. But she just said, you know, we dress in our nicest dresses and we get ready and we go. And my parents were not very religious, so they weren't really one way or another. So I got myself ready and I walked across the street and I went to church with her the next day, and really loved it. I really loved the Sunday school. I loved singing when I was a kid, so that was just my favorite thing. And so I attended on and off for years, this Baptist church, and I had actually ended up even going to the summer camp. And I went a few years. I was a camp counselor, and I had gotten baptized as well when I was 13. I wasn't saved. I had to take classes, I think, for 6 weeks, and I had no idea what any of it meant. So anyway, I got baptized, and I was in youth group weekly. Every Sunday night, I was in youth group. I had a couple friends, so we all went together. I ended up just kind of falling away from it, just due to the fact that my parents had a pretty nasty split. So I ended up moving away and kind of totally fell away from church. But so that was fine. And I ended up moving with my grandparents. So when I was in my late teens, it's kind of a troubled kid more so. I didn't have a lot of rules or parenting. So when I moved in with my grandparents, my papa was very hardcore with discipline. He was in the Peace Corps. He was very, very strict for the most part. But now I'm looking back and I see that it actually wasn't that strict. But for a worldly, family, it was pretty hard. And I actually was really receptive to it because it was something very different that I had not really experienced in my own home growing up. And I think it actually helped me a lot to just develop those disciplines that I really needed. And I do think that it was really placed in my life from the Lord because I think it was really necessary for me. And I ended up graduating high school and I moved back home with my mom. She wanted me to go to college here. She wanted me to get away from where I was at my grandparents just because I had fallen in with some bad friends and it was just kind of taking over my life in a very, very bad way. And I ended up moving home and I was here for, I think, a few years and I was getting ready to actually move back and I had met my husband a few months before. So I ended up staying due to my husband and we got married and we were together for, I think, 7 years, maybe 7 years. And we became really hardcore conservatives. I was very liberal when we got married. I would probably say that I was a feminist for sure. I feel for him in those first few years. We still talk about it. I'm very sorry. Anyway, we became very conservative because we had just had so many lies just through our lives, just from people that, we respected and loved. And we wanted the truth and it didn't matter if it offended us. And I think that's why we ended up being so open to the gospel because we just wanted the truth. So with anything, and really with anyone in the movement who was a serious truth seeker, if you're really looking for the truth, you're going to end up with Christ. And that's all there is. So we wanted to raise our kids right. And we pulled our kids out of public school after checking out this after school program. I was a hairdresser for years. My husband was a tattooist for decades, couple. And we had just checked out an after school program one day and just walking around and seeing the place was very sad. And it really made me realize, like, I can't have someone else take care of our kids. And my husband felt the same way. And when we got home, I just looked at him and I said, like, I'm going to homeschool our kids. So I quit my job and I stayed home with our kids. And this was prior to getting saved. We just started falling in line with these things before even getting saved, which was really cool. Same with like vaccinations and everything. We had really just started looking for the truth. And like I said, of course, that leads you to, we wanted to raise our kids right. And I just knew for some reason, and so did, I took it to my husband that would be biblical. And I think it's just because I had that in me from being a kid that I really loved it. And I just knew that that's how you raise your kids right. I don't really know, I guess. And I searched biblical parenting on YouTube. And the fifth video, I don't know why. Well, I do now, obviously. The fifth video was Pastor Anderson. And it was the first video I clicked on. And just something about it, just something about the preaching, something about the really harsh reality of even being a lazy parent, doing your job, not failing your kids. It was really intense. And I was just standing there cooking supper and I was watching this sermon and I was like, this is true. Like, this is 100%. I abide with this. And I ended up stopping every time he would quote a Bible verse because I would check my Bible to make sure that it lined up with my Bible because we had attended previously a United Baptist church and it was not a good experience, but it got us on the path to wanting to be in church. And anyway, so I watched a few sermons. I got really hooked on it and I took it to my husband and we just fell in love with the preaching and the honesty. And we had stumbled upon one of his gospel presentations and our whole family got saved. Me and my husband got saved together. Our kids shortly after. We attended a Baptist church here for a while. Unfortunately, it took a while, over a year, for the really hardcore heresy to come out because we were babes and we didn't know. but we got baptized, me and my husband together there. And yeah, it was really fast when it started, it just kind of just the ball kept going, and we just wanted the truth. And I remember praying. I wanted the truth, and I wanted us to live, I wanted us to do our lives right, just growing up from such a broken home. I never wanted that for kids. And so now we're raising our family the best we can. And yeah, just trying to grow ever since. I think we've been saved now for roughly 3.5 years. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Little baby in Christ, a 3-year-old. That's
Yeah.
nice. So we need Christians of all walks. So why do you think it was growing up, even in a Baptist church? Did they never give the gospel, or why do you think it was that you never heard the gospel?
I've never heard the gospel. It was now that I look back and I remember things that I've heard and even songs that we've sung, it was works based. So just like being like, having to be, there was like this little light of mine, and it was just I remember them explaining it, how we have to do these things. Like we have to have our light always shining. You have to live for Christ, which, we should, but it's obviously not going to depend on being saved. So no, I've never had a clear presentation of the gospel. Even when I was doing my baptism classes, I honestly can't overly remember what was talked about, but it was like a 6-week course for like a 13-year-old kid, right? So I had no idea.
Yeah, and I've heard of churches doing baptism courses before you even get baptized, and we don't. I would think that they would have gone over the reasons for being baptized, and like, are you ever accepted Christ? Because that's the whole purpose of getting baptized, is because you got saved or on Christ for salvation. So that's really shame on them, I say, for you going all that time. And then now I've heard a lot of stories of people that went to Baptist churches when they were younger and they get saved, like in the kids programs, whether that's the bus route or Awanas or King's Kids or something. They'll get saved, and then maybe they get out of church for a while, but it's like, once saved, always saved, obviously. It's like that's in them. And then when they become adults, they know that they need to get back, into church, but they didn't lose their salvation. So I'm surprised that you never heard the gospel going there. That's awful.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking now, like when we just see how simple it is. But
Right.
When you think of like even old IFB, me and my husband were just recently talking about this. Old IFB, it almost just seems to apply almost to America. Like in Canada, it seems like it's still consistently the same as it even was in the 90s, except maybe now people know who Pastor Anderson is. And that's like a huge red flag for any church we've gone to. But other than that, they've very much been consistent. And I think the old IFB, the difference there is churches here don't really believe in soul winning. I say don't really, but like they don't. They mock it really hardcore. Whereas like even in America, you have so many old IFB churches who are willing to do it.
Yeah, there is a lot. Maybe it might be a cultural thing. And I know in Canada you have lots and lots. It's very, very difficult to find a Baptist church that's even correct.
Yeah, it's we have not found one yet. We have been looking, and we have found actually a family that is in the movement, and they are. We prayed for them consistently, and I do believe entirely that they are a blessing. We thought we were alone in this little province, and I actually had just stumbled upon one of Jujana's posts on Instagram, and I saw a Canadian flag, and there's this girl that posted, hey, from Nova Scotia. And I was like, Nova Scotia, like that's where I'm at. And I messaged her right away. And so we have been friends with them. Their kids are friends with our kids. They have been a huge blessing in our life. And I totally believe they're from the Lord, because we have been our very own sad little island, with you. Obviously you love your church family, and it's something that, we kind of cry for here, because there's such a need, and it's hard.
I know, and it drives me nuts, because I really feel like Americans take that for granted. Because even when you just see, even in the Baptist world, okay, even old IFB, new IFB, just IFB in general, we've always, we're as hardcore IFB as you can be. And so we've grown up in it our whole life. And we see so many families that will just leave a church over the stupidest things. Have a disagreement with someone else, or they don't like the color carpet you picked out. And we've seen that. One of my old churches that I went to, there was a huge split over music. The pastor wanted to be more conservative with music, and there were some people that really loved their Southern gospel, and they made it a defining issue. And there was like a split down the middle, and the other half left. So, and I just look at that and I'm thinking, we're so spoiled here in America because we have so many Baptist churches to choose from. I mean, pretty much any town has a Baptist church, whether or not they're right on salvation, that's always a toss up. But there are a lot, I would say at least 50% of Baptist or IFB churches are correct in salvation. So, we have that going for us. So yeah, I'll be praying for you guys. I know that's got to be tough with like no like-minded fellowship, because fellowship is so important and then sometimes even your spiritual family, sometimes you're closer to them than your physical family, even because of and do you have any siblings?
I have one half brother and I have two stepsisters. I'm very careful with the word, but I'm very confident and can tell you that my brother and me have zero relationship. He is a reprobate, and my stepsister, one of them also is. And my other stepsister, she is a lovely person, but we just don't see eye to eye due to the fact, obviously, we're raising our families very differently. But she is a very sweet girl. So I don't have any contact with siblings at all, obviously.
That's tough. My whole family, we were all raised Baptist. So I do believe all of them are saved. Obviously, we differ quite a bit through the years, but we still have that sibling connection. So I love all of them dearly, and we get along. We agree to disagree on different things and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that I do have that. But when it comes to your spiritual family, especially ones that have decided to come to your church and listen to, in this case, my husband's preaching, we line up so much, the way that we're raising our kids, and we're homeschooling them, and, we have the same beliefs when it comes to even just end time stuff, and, all this different stuff that goes into it. So it's really, really hard when you don't have a church. Now, have you pretty much narrowed down? Have you tried are there churches that actually call themselves IFB in your area?
No. No, independent Baptist church, but a lot of them, I don't even think they are independent. So it's hard to get the truth out of people. They just don't want to seem to tell the truth about it. But independent fundamental Baptist, no, I have yet to find one.
Okay, so we went on our honeymoon. And this was almost 20 years ago. We went to Canada. We went to Niagara Falls, the Canadian side, for our honeymoon, or on our honeymoon. And the first Sunday morning, we found a church right before you cross into the border, and it was a Baptist church. And he literally preached that you had to be baptized to be saved. We could not believe it. When we were sitting there, we were like, are you, because he used, I think it was an NIV or ESV or something, where it says, what the verse where Philip's talking to the eunuch or something, he's like, what doth hinder me to be baptized? And then he says the verse, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. And then they took that verse out, whatever that verse is, the believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. So it's like, what doth hinder me to be baptized? And then here's body water, let's go get baptized. So he took that out and basically said you had to be baptized to be saved. I could not believe it. So we struck out on that one. But that night on the Canadian side, we found an actual IFB church. And when we walked in, there was a picture of like Jack Hyles on the wall. So we were like, okay, this is probably okay. And they were right on salvation, at least, because it was a Hyles affiliated church or whatever. And that's one thing Hyles had going for them. And First Baptist is that they were correct on salvation. So, but they did the soul winning numbers. So everyone was like standing up saying how many salvations they had. So that was actually, we had like a kinship with that church. So, but that was like right across the border from, I don't know, New York or something around there.
They're pretty much, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much American almost, because it was right there. So, but yeah, I wish that you guys had a possibility of like a church plant going out there, or something just for that like-minded fellowship, because now you're pretty much doing internet church, which isn't the same.
Yeah, for sure. And we are so grateful for, and in a way, like we feel kind of spoiled in certain ways we have so many pastors to just kind of like go to. We did, especially when we started growing, obviously, just because, he had gotten us saved. We were very heavily into Pastor Anderson's sermons. And I think all the pastors have such a unique gift when it comes to pastoring so differently. So there's so many different avenues, like even, with the series with Jimenez, like I love those. And, it's really great that we do have so many people putting them on YouTube for people like us, because I'm sure, even I saw Angelique, like in England, they have really hard times too. And I try to remind the kids and myself that, it's not just us, and there are so many others out there who are in the same situation as us. And we, my husband always says, we just have to find them, they're here. We just have to find them. So
I do love the avenue that, with social media and the internet that there's so many. I know even with my husband's preaching, there's been people that have emailed saying, I watched your Bible with Heaven and I got saved. It's crazy that people are getting saved through these videos and these ministries. And you're right. It is kind of nice because there are different personalities, and this preacher might preach something this way and you can pull something from that. And then, this one might preach something this way. So it is nice to have that, but it's not the same as in person for sure. So I'll definitely.
No, I had told Dana that when I had messaged her like a week or so ago, I think, because one of her husband's sermons was really, I don't know. Sometimes I think when, we are maybe in harder spots, just because we're not in a church, some sermons will really like hit us in the heart. And I'm not an overly emotional person, but it really hit me. And, I was teary eyed with it, and just seeing like his passion and his love for the Lord. And, I reached out to Dana, just to tell her a blessing that they've been to us. And, I told her, I said, if you ever want a really hard missions trip, you come to it.
Exactly.
It's cold.
How far away is Nova Scotia even from America? I know Amanda's not that far from me. Amanda's like 6 hours from me, but where is Nova Scotia in Canada? Is it up near the top?
I think because we're like a little peninsula, and we have to go through New Brunswick, and a couple other provinces to get to Amanda. I think we're roughly 16 to 18 hours away from Amanda.
Wow. Yeah. So we're talking like 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. But that's how far Arizona is for me. So Arizona's 24 hours. California is about 24 hours. They're really, really far. So, but go into a little bit of, so I wanted to talk about your loss. And for those of you that don't know, well, I'll just let Talia. So Talia, you just go into that story.
Okay. So I have been raising 2 stepchildren, my husband's children, before we got together, for the past 9 years. 9 years? Wow, 9 years. Okay. I've been their primary mother figure, and it's been a huge blessing. And it was, we had decided when we got married that we weren't going to have kids, but then we got saved and everything changed, which I was really grateful for, because I was actually always hoping he would change his mind. Anyway, so I think, 2018, I had gotten pregnant, and was ecstatic, over the moon. I was so excited. And I had a fantastic pregnancy. Like I told you earlier, we had no idea what the gender was, but we all knew it was boy. And I had a fantastic pregnancy. I thought I did everything right. And anyway, so it was time to deliver, and we had gone to a hospital that specialized with children and babies, because it was important that we, I wanted to have the best care possible for my pregnancy, for my delivery, sorry. And we had gone in, and they kept me for hours and hours. And I think overall, there was a lot of negligent care. especially, we've already heard about the healthcare system here. It's very, very cold. And I didn't really feel like there was any real caring from my nurses. My doctor actually didn't even come in to see me the entire time I was in the hospital. I haven't seen her since my last prenatal appointment.
Wow.
So she, anyway, so they sent me home because they said I wasn't progressing. I was only at 1 centimeter, and this was, a day in, and I didn't know what to do because we drove an hour to this hospital. So I'm on my way home. I'm having contractions every 40 seconds, and so I'm just wondering, how long am I going to do this to go back? It's every 40 seconds. Anyway, so that progressed all night, and the next morning, I had woke up. I didn't sleep, but my husband, I tried really hard to let him have a little rest because, poor thing, he was up the whole time with me. And he woke up early, and I said, we have to go to a hospital here that's local because there's something really wrong. Obviously, I'm still in labor, and it was really intense. And so we went into the hospital around 10 a.m. that morning. And they immediately, and this is something the other hospital never did one time, they didn't put a fetal heart rate monitor on me. And yeah, so they immediately put that on me. And the woman was very nervous because she had asked me how long I'd been in labor. And I roughly at this point, I think it was 34 to 35 hours of contractions within a minute. And my water, I don't know when it broke. I don't even know if it did break. I guess it did because no one said anything to me. I don't know what I was looking for. I was a first time, mom. So the woman, she's so sweet. Her name was Trish. And she said, I don't like how this sounds. And you could hear it on the monitor that when I was contracting, his heart rate was slowing down. And she said, we have to do an emergency cesarean, which, obviously with your birth plan, you want to do everything by your birth plan. I was convinced my birth plan was going to be to the T. So a cesarean and medication was 100% not in my plan. So I was very hesitant, but they told me that, if you don't, the baby's gonna die. So I said, okay, I don't have a choice. So they rushed me in, and they were working on me and kind of cut me open, and they pulled him out. And I just remember feeling this overwhelming feeling of, I already knew. I actually had a dream a few months beforehand, not crazy Pentecostal dream, but I had a dream that was almost preparing me. I had gone to my husband and told him, I don't feel like we're going to bring this baby home. And I thought I was just being really hormonal. And my husband was really bothered by it, obviously. And I had this overwhelming feeling that I just wasn't going to bring that baby home. And but I thought it was just me being crazy and emotional and scared, which every first time mom, is. And I just remember, I looked up at my husband, and he kind of was tearing up, and we didn't hear the cry. We were waiting for the cry, and it didn't come. And the nurses rushed the baby over, and they were working on him for about 20 minutes. And Chris had come back over to me, and with epidurals, I find I was really upset because I lost the ability to have emotion. And I was very, very cold. And I don't know how bad I was very infected. And it came out that we both had a very severe infection, and he just wasn't strong enough to handle it. And he ended up voiding his bowels, and it actually ended up triggering this infection inside. And that's what got us both sick. And they couldn't bring him back. And the doctor had told me that the only reason I had heard his heartbeat right before I had gone into the surgery. So the only thing that was sustaining him was being inside. And it was a pretty crazy experience. I lost the ability to really move or think. I wasn't prepared for, I don't know if it happens to everybody, but you start shaking uncontrollably. And I was not prepared for that. I really thought I thought I was dying. And my husband was very scared. And it was very heartbreaking to see his emotions, because I had known that he was trying to process Sam, and now the fear of watching me have these convulsions. And it was very unreal. And I didn't really fully know that he wasn't here until they had pulled me into a recovery area, and my husband and a nurse had sat down and explained to me that they couldn't bring him back. Which
was he gone before they even took him out C-section, or did he die upon being born?
I think he had gone around the time that they had put in my epidural. He just couldn't handle it. It was within that little baby window of time that he was gone. So,
do you mind if I share a picture of him?
Yeah, he's the cutest, but I know we all say that, but he really is.
Really good. I have the picture up here of you holding him right after he was born.
Oh, so, oh,
it's not going bigger, but yeah. So cute. So perfectly made.
He was, and that was my fear with the doctor. I asked them, is it anything I did? Is there anything I could have done differently? And they said he was perfect the way he came out. He was shaped perfect. There was no defects. It was just life. And the really cool thing months after was my husband named him. He really liked the name Samuel. We didn't have a name for a boy. And my husband had chose Samuel Elijah, which I fell in love with. And he had picked up his Bible one day, and he had gone to that verse actually in Samuel. And it's the 12:23, the time he was born. And it actually is when David is talking about the baby that he lost due to the adultery. And it's actually the verse is, but now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And that was like huge to me, because it was just like, it's exactly, we know now, like we know where he is, and it doesn't always make it easier, but having the comfort of knowing, he's not in pain, and, he doesn't have to suffer, because if they would have brought him back, I always have those thoughts of, would there have been brain damage, or would he have not been who he was meant to be? Right. So
that is true. That is, I think that's our way of coping. When it comes to loss, it's our mind's way of coping, because it was the same way when I lost. I know losing a parent is not anything close to losing a child, but when I lost my dad, he kind of went into a coma, and then he died that night. But he had always said before that day, he had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and he did not want to be put on a ventilator. He was like, I don't want that type of, I don't want that living. I don't want to live that way. That's not really living, because you could be on a ventilator, as you saw with Stephen Hawking, for years and years and years before you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had made that decision, him and my mom. Well, as it got closer to the end, he got very scared, and he was having a hard time breathing. And so they scheduled an appointment for him to go in on Monday morning to talk about getting put on a ventilator. And then that Sunday night he died. So I feel in my heart, I just felt like that was God's way of saying, no, this isn't my plan for you. I know you wouldn't be happy living this way. And so he just took him home. And I guess as humans, that's a way that we can, cope with the loss. And I think for just Christians, I mean, you lost him after you were saved. So we have that hope. I don't know what people that aren't saved, where's the hope, of seeing them again?
I can't imagine. That was my thing that I had really had to remember. And I found a lot of strength just in Job, just because of the loss. And that was huge to me, because me and my husband both have had very hard upbringings. I mean, obviously people have had it worse, but I don't know how we would have survived that not being saved. And I think that, I had never gotten pregnant prior to, and I think that's why, because I don't know what I would have done, but it would not have been positive. And the really cool thing about that picture is there is a woman here actually locally. She just started a month prior to doing free photography packages for stillborns. And at first I was like, I don't want to do that. But Chris was like, I feel like you might regret that. And I was like, well, okay, I guess. And, you're emotional anyway, so you don't really want to see anybody. And she had come in and taken those pictures. And I can't even imagine not having them. And I feel like that was just another huge blessing, because what would I have done? I took one picture the whole time. Like,
I know. And it's beautiful, and it's beautiful, and it's sad to me, just because, I mean, he just, you can't tell he's gone in the picture. It's so beautiful. And he was so beautiful. But you have, let me share this picture. After I go back, let me see. The X out of it. Okay, let me go up. So right now, this is another thing that we're going to talk about. Explain this picture.
Bump. I'm huge already, Cassandra. I'm telling
you. Yeah, I'm wondering if you're going to hear 2 heartbeats when you go in.
That's what I told Nicole. I was like, what's going on? Either that, or like, I was smaller when I got pregnant. So I'm not a huge person, but I think that either it's just because my body has already gone through it and is just already going out, or that's literally, I was like, is this twins? I mean, I'm not mad, but is this twins?
But yeah, that's a pretty big bump.
It looks kind of bigger than it is, I think, because of the angle. But I mean, no, it's real. There's a bump there.
Oh, that's funny. No, now I do pop out every time, quicker with them. So that could partly be it. But yes, you are expecting again.
Yes.
So we've got baby coming in October, and pray for her, guys. I kind of wanted her on too, because she does prayer works. And as we've seen with Amanda and other people that have watched the show, in fact, I have a very faithful listener. I'm not going to say her name. Most of you wouldn't know her. She leaves comments a lot, but we email back and forth. And her and her husband were married years and years, and they just found out they're pregnant. This just a couple months ago, and everything looks great. She's due this year. I'm so excited for her. So prayer works, and I have a prayer list, and I pray for everyone that sends in prayer requests or emails. I'll pray for you. But so mixed emotions when you found out. Now, did you had a miscarriage, didn't you, since Samuel?
I did. Yeah.
I thought you had, but it was pretty early. Am I remember?
Mm-hmm. It was very early. I think within 6 weeks, maybe even earlier. I can't remember now.
Okay. Yep. I thought I remember that. So emotions, when you saw the positive on there. What did you feel?
I didn't think it was real. It's one of those things since Samuel. Like every month, I'm like, I'm pregnant. I know it. And then my husband's like, stop doing this to yourself. Like,
Ryan told me that before too.
Yeah, I have to stop because I'll just buy all these tests. And now I know they're cheap on Amazon, so now it's fine. So I felt guilty almost, to be honest. I felt this weird duality of serious fear of having to go through that again, because it was just very scary not bringing him home. I don't know. I felt bad for feeling that way, because I feel, you almost feel like there's like a replacement, but I obviously know that's not, the way that it is. The Lord opens and closes the womb, so it's not up to me. He felt we were ready. I felt I was ready 3 months after, and then not at all. And then I said, we're never gonna have kids. It's not gonna happen for me. And I just think that it's a huge deal to not feel bad about the fact that you're grieving. And sometimes it's going to happen after you've been really happy for a month on it. Elijah is a great example of that, about a big victory and then a downfall. So I think it's just really important to not beat yourself up and think that you've done a bunch of things wrong, because that's where I went to. I went to the, is there sin in my life? Did I do something wrong? Like, am I just being chastened for even just, like living a terrible past or whatever else? And, my husband just basically, and a lot of friends kind of had to just be like, okay, like you can't do that to yourself. The reality is it is what it is, and it happened, and he went home and he's safe, and I couldn't ask for him to be anywhere better. And it's honestly selfish of me to just keep dwelling on it and not being able to enjoy this pregnancy, because this pregnancy is a huge blessing that I never really thought I was going to have again, which I'm sure that's crazy sounding because it's only been like a year since Sam. But yeah, I think just as women, we have a tendency to really just go to the negative with it. And I think it's really important that we have a strong support system. I had a few women who got me through losing Sam. And actually, it was a month after I lost Sam that Angelica Vincent had lost her son Titus. And I had immediately reached out to her, and she really got me through, because we were able to really bounce off that feeling of grief. Because, you know, when you I think it was Anne of Green Gables says you can't properly sympathize with someone unless you've been through it. And I think because of that, I feel like, you know, the Lord let me have that a month early so I could be that for her. And I've cried for her quite a bit as well, because, you know, that first month is the hardest. And it was the same with when I'd miscarried. I reached out to her again, and, you know, she was a big deal. And I have a friend here, Jenny, who was very helpful to me, and Nicole has been my best friend. She feels like forever, but she was huge too in recovery. And having just a strong support system, having a great husband has been a huge blessing. And I really don't have any reasons to complain.
Did you function better when you're able to talk to people about it?
It's so 50-50, because I do sometimes, but I find like Nicole's really good at catching this now, where I kind of just go inside myself and I don't reach out at all. And then she'll harass me until I answer her, which I really need, because I just really go with inside myself. And it's something too that I even try not to do with my husband, because, you know, he just, you know, they just want help. They love you. And I deal with grief really weird. I've lost people in my life that I love, and I just don't grieve properly. And sometimes, you know, you don't process it, and then years go by, and then it just hits you like a ton of bricks, and it's not good. Getting saved has helped me process it a bit more, just like I said, because I know where he is, and I know it's all going to be okay. But I do find I kind of just really go within myself and don't really reach out, but I am trying to do better. So sometimes it's like a really ridiculous reach out where I'm just like, Nicole, I'm sad. I need you to fix it. And they're really great. They're really great. Very understanding to the crazies.
Between you and me and the 750 views or whatever, she'll sometimes tell me, just pray for Talia. I'm worried about her. Just pray for Talia. So yeah. Oh. She's worried that you don't have the fellowship there like we do here, you know, where I get to see her multiple times a week, and we get to talk and share our struggles. And and Nicole and I are a lot alike in some areas. And it's so funny because Amy from church has this like body scanner thing, and it picks up on the frequencies, and it can kind of sense things that are wrong, you know, like physically, mentally, emotionally, different things like that. And according to this little scanner thing, both Nicole and I are like stressed to the max. So we're like, man, the scanner thing does not, it thinks we need to be, you know, we need like all this stuff for like emotional, so you don't have a nervous breakdown, and, you know, different things like that. So we'll joke about that, but it does help being around each other, you know, where we can talk to each other. So I'm glad that you have her to reach out to her for sure. And for me, I feel better when I can vent about it, when I can talk about it, when I can just get my feelings out, because that's just the way that I process it. But everyone processes grief different ways. And the thing about grief is that it's kind of taboo in culture. I know in American culture, people, when you lose a loved one, most Americans kind of expect you to like, okay, you can be sad for 3 months, but then you need to just get over it, you know, like that. And I don't think that's healthy. I think that grief takes a lot longer to process. And then even still now, even though my dad has been gone 23 years or something, I still miss him almost every day, but I do have the hope of heaven. So, I have that hope, but grief with some things, it's always going to be here, somewhat, just like you'll always think of Samuel, and, you'll always have that little bit of you that misses him. So I think it's good to definitely talk. Nicole's like, you guys are nerds and I love you all.
Yeah, there's a level of like where if I catch it and I'm like, okay, I should reach out, I'm good. And then it does help to vent, but it's like there's like this level, if I miss it, and then I just kind of never mind. People are busy, people are stressed. Like I don't want to bother them. And like you said, Nicole apparently is stressed to the max with that test. Like, all these little kids running around, and I'm like, Nicole, I'm sad. Like I can't.
And you know what? I think for her though, Nicole, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're watching this because you just called us nerds. But I think for her, it's therapeutic for her to be able to be there for someone, and for someone to be able to vent to her, for her to be able to help someone. That's probably helps her, I don't know. Maybe that's because that's kind of how I am. So that's what I'm thinking. But so how do you get over? Because for me, and I've had miscarriages at 10 weeks, 2 at 10 weeks. So that's nothing like having a baby born that doesn't make it. So I can't even, for me, I know they were both babies for me, and every baby is important no matter how small. But I know after I've had those, my next pregnancy, it was really hard for me to even be able to enjoy it because of the fear. Like, okay, I don't feel very sick today. What am I going to lose it again? And I had a little bit of spotting with both Hannah and Kelly. And so that kind of scared me too. So I started using progesterone cream and it was fine. But how do you personally overcome those fears? Because I know you must have them.
I definitely do. I try really hard. I would say that's when you definitely need to lean on people, because that is definitely something I think about. I kind of like keep checking like charts of like where the statistics are. Like, okay, once I hit this mark, my chances of like, losing are like this low. And I get excited as the weeks go on just because I'm like, yes, made another week. This would be this would be the latest miscarriage, like God forbid, that I would have. So I don't really know how that would be very hard to handle that at 10 weeks for sure. But I think it's just really important to that support system. And that's what this, I do. I look at these people in churches and I'm like, you guys, the fellowship you have and the hope that you have, in each other, and just knowing that, you can just go, you're going to see each other 3 times a week. And they're going to give you good advice and not worldly advice. And I think that's really the hard part about going through these things and not having that here and present, because, you don't have that. So I would just say to just really prayer is huge. I definitely love and appreciate any prayers that anyone sends my way, and for my family. I just tried not to do too much because of my first pregnancy. I was very lifting and moving things and whatever. I'm really careful this time. I know that obviously, like, I didn't lose him like because of any of that. It just happened. So I just want to be extra careful because I don't, every pregnancy is so new and different. And this one has been very extremely exhausting. And so yeah, it's probably a girl or twins. Nicole's really excited for twins. I just know.
Oh yeah, that's funny. And yeah, do you know Cassie Rich?
I've heard her name. I think I might even have her on Facebook. I'm not sure.
Lost Leah, her little girl, Leah.
Mm-hmm.
Lost Leah. So I've been wanting to have her on too eventually to just kind of talk about that. She said that's exactly how I feel right now. She's pregnant again. She's getting close. She's 30 going up 33 weeks. So she said not fear of the health of the baby, but more fear and anxiety of just labor and then having the baby and praying I'm just able to have all the love for him. Oh, that's sweet. And I understand what you're saying about not wanting to feel like, the baby is a replacement, But I don't feel that way, because you know how you love every single child. As you have more, which I pray you're going to have more, and I think you will, you're going to find that no matter how many children you add on, your love is just as strong, as your love for your other ones. It's just, your love grows and grows and grows. And I remember Amanda and I having that talk before, because she's like, it's hard for me to believe I can even love another one as much as I love Caleb, but then he's born, and she's like, oh my goodness, why did I even think that? After they're born, you're just like, oh, the love that you have for both of them. In a way. But for me, the biggest thing is the fear. And I'm a worrier by nature. So even when I'm away from my kids, like right now I'm here, and Kelly's with her her sisters and brothers and her dad. And I'm like, oh, are they watching Kelly good enough? Because Kelly, 24/7, I'm just trying to keep that child alive. She's constantly falling and banging her head. She's fearless, so she's just constantly running, and so constantly trying to keep her alive. And so I'm just a worrier by nature, which is probably why I'm stressed. But I think a lot of times I just have to bring my thoughts into captivity. And I found that the hardest times for me was when the house was silent. So like at night, or taking a shower, you can only think about things. So I really have just had to, I've had to give myself talks like, okay, Cassandra, stop. If it's out of your control, then why worry about it? So I've kind of come to that point where I've been able to rein it in a little bit, and just kind of accept that whatever happens, happens, and God is in control of it. So, but I have to give myself pep talks.
Yeah, like I wasn't aware that when I came home from the whole hospital situation with Sam, I knew that he wasn't here, but my body didn't. So I started, I would wake up in a panic, wondering where he was. I would be sitting on the sofa, and then I would like look around, like panicked, like wondering where he was. And then it's like the waves of like, oh, right. So your body like continues to be in mother mode, but there's nothing to do. So, in the middle of the night, when you do wake up randomly, you're looking for a baby that's not there. And I think that was probably the hardest part, I think, for me, was just realizing like your body just knows what to do by nature, because the Lord has designed us in such a perfect way, but the baby just isn't home. And I don't know if that happens with everybody, or I don't know if I'm sure it does to some level for sure. But that was that was really crazy, that I had to literally convince myself and to be like, he's not here, but my body doesn't understand. So it's like this crazy disconnect. But
and then your milk comes in and everything as well. So
yep.
Maybe, yeah, that's awful. That's awful. I'm just reading the comments to make sure I'm not missing any. Sorry guys if I missed some of them. But yeah, Cassie said, no, never a replacement, just with all the emotions of being back in the hospital and all the worries of the unexpected.
Yeah, that would
when you come to actually deliver, that's going to be tough for you, I think.
I think I've like prepped obviously every changes, right? But I think I had such a worst case scenario that I can going in with like, what's the worst that can happen, And obviously we know what the worst thing that can happen is. But for me, I was so purposed that I was like, I'm getting through labor without an epidural. I really wanted to do it natural, because I really just wanted to. And I knew, the benefits and, health wise for that. And I had read so much on epidurals that I had read so much that month that I had myself terrified of everything, like Pitocin, epidural, whatever else. And I understand that there's a place, but I wanted to 100% do it naturally. And I was very, I don't want to say proud, but, I was really impressed that I was able to get through, 35, 36 hours of unmedicated straight labor. And I would 100% do it again. That's my goal this time. I would love to do it again. Wouldn't think twice. So the labor itself actually doesn't scare me. It definitely made me nervous the first time, but once it really started, I'm like, okay, yeah, I got this. Like my, breathing techniques are huge. Like breathing, your body just knows what to do. It's really cool if you just listen to it. But it's the more so getting to that point where, okay, have a doctor, everything's fine. Because finding a doctor here is just, you wouldn't, it's like, where's Waldo? Because we're really serious on, we female delivery doctors. We're really big on that. And my emergency doctor here in town was a male to do my cesarean because it was an emergency last minute thing. We're trying to plan now ahead so we can have female doctors, because I had female care through my whole pregnancy with Sam, but just because I had to deliver here, I am smack down in the middle of midwives. So Halifax is on one side of me and they have midwives, and then I'm an hour away from them. There's no midwives. And then an hour away on the other side, there are midwives, but I'm exactly out of range for either of these midwives. So I even told them, like, I'll travel to you. I just want midwife care. And so they haven't called me back yet. So I definitely would love to hear from them. I would love to have midwives. I just want to have a simple birth, unmedicated. I'm not asking for a lot.
I know, I feel so blessed that I've been able to, but I feel like Canadian, like we were talking with Amanda, is that last week? You're talking about Canadian healthcare, and I feel like you were run through the ringer with, the care that you received and the things that they should have picked up on. And, I don't know. I feel like they would have picked up on that here in America. Maybe I'm wrong. I know there's tragedies that happen in America too, but I almost feel like they are so over the top with concerns when it comes to pregnancies here. They really go above and beyond to just make sure, like even me with the gestational diabetes, they are so on top of that. Like I have to have I have to have stress tests, leading up to, my last two. I've had to have stress tests weekly, just leading up to it. And I feel like they really stay on top of that. So, you have your first appointment this week, correct?
Yes, this Wednesday for sure.
Mm-hmm. That'll be exciting. That'll be super exciting. So else, when it comes to just, pregnancy after loss, what is the best way to just keep a good mindset?
So I found that the first few days in the hospital, I feel like I really distanced myself from everyone. And it actually was the first time since getting saved that I didn't read my Bible. And I don't want to say that I was mad at God, because obviously that's terrifying. But I think that I just didn't understand why me. And I find that that is not the way you want to go. I think that distancing yourself from the Lord at all in times like this is exactly the opposite of what you should do. And I think that prayer is really underestimated, because I feel like I had so many people who just came out and told me that they were praying for me in my pregnancy. And then I found out I was pregnant. And I don't think that was a coincidence. I think that when you go through a loss, that it's so unbelievably important to cling to the Lord more, because obviously, as we see through Job, which we're reading through right now as a family, actually, so it's really cool. As you see how his end is, it's much better than the beginning, and we don't always know and understand his ways, and we may never understand his ways here on this side of eternity. And I think that it's important to lean on him and to lean on people who are spiritually mature and are going to give you sound advice, and not go to the world because that is never a good decision. So yeah, I think spiritually mature people and support system. I'm very, very blessed to have the husband I have, who has just jumped into living, this way of our life and being a fantastic leader, because I think without him, I don't know. He's just been that really serious rock that when I fall apart, he is strong. And when he's been weak about Sam, I've been strong. And I think the Lord does that for us, so we don't have to go through it alone, because we're not alone. And it's all going to be okay. And I think time, it's just really time.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, you said that you didn't want, you were kind of questioning. And I feel like, even as a Christian, we're going to have questions. We're not going to understand, why did this happen? But I don't know, when I've thought about the hard times that I've gone through in my life, I've always come just back to, the verse that talks about the rain falling on the just and the unjust. We live in a sin sick world, and it's sometimes life just stinks. And it's not that God is punishing us or has a vendetta against us. Obviously, you want to keep your heart and mind pure before God and try to keep the sin out of your life. But God wants the best for us. He wants us to be happy. So it's not like he's in heaven just throwing these darts out. Let's see if I can get her this time, And so obviously there's going to be things allowed in our life to happen. But I come back to thinking, I can't imagine if I didn't have the Lord when I went through those times, if I didn't have him to lean on, and I didn't have the Bible to read, and I didn't have the Psalms, because think of how the Psalms have helped,
Mm-hmm.
an example of what David went through. And I don't know. I just keep coming back to that. That's one of the things that's helped me through hard times, I guess, is just thinking, what would I do if I didn't have the Lord? What would I do if I was an atheist and I was bitter and mad and,
It would be survival of the fittest, and that's why, right? I know it's terrible. I have no idea what they do. That probably would be why like suicide rates are so high with people like that, because you don't have an answer as to what is going on.
Exactly. So yeah, I always just come back to that. So, but anyways, we will be praying for you for sure. And you'll need to keep us updated on what's going on. And I'll try to keep everyone updated. I cannot wait until you are holding your baby this fall. So anyways, guys, I'm going to be trying to have a guest on the next few weeks. So look for that. Like, share, subscribe, share this video, subscribe if you haven't already. So thanks for joining in. Talia, just wait a minute while I say goodbye. You want to say goodbye to everyone?
Thanks for watching. I was so nervous and you guys stayed.
Yeah, you did fine. I knew you would. So